in this weekly reading, we find the idea of Maaser Kesafim, what they call later, the tenth of one's earnings, of one's money. Meaning the Torah commands us to separate Maaserot, not one type of Maaser. There are various types of Maaser, various tithes that are separated from the crop. Also from animals, every 10th animal. But there's no clear command in the Torah anywhere that says that if you earn a certain salary, let's say you make $100,000 a year, that you should give to various charities $10,000. Right? There's no such clear command. But in our Parsha, we have a hint to this idea when Yakov says to Hashem that anything you give me, asera esreno lach, I'll take a tenth of it. Now the Talmud actually finds this double language, what is not so uncommon in the Torah, when double words, double verbs usually are used like this. Asera esreno. A tenth, I'll take a tenth. Really, it's a verb. I cannot even translate it into English well. Maybe I tithe will tithe. That would be the literal translation. So usually when the Torah uses this double language, there is some specific meaning to this. And that's why the Talmud teaches us that ideally one should give not a tenth, but a fifth of one's income. 1/10 and another tenth. Again, with regards to grain and other parts of crop, there were two different Maaserot, besides other parts that were given to the Kohen and etc. But the main two Maaserot, the 2/10 that were given away, one was a tenth that was given to Leviim, and the other tenth, it depended on which year. In certain years it was given to poor people, and other years it was eaten in ritual purity in Yerushalayim. Whatever the case may be, the idea is that with regards to money, there is also a type of Maaser, a tenth, and ideally even 2/10, meaning a fifth. And that's of course the Jewish law. Everybody knows that Orthodox Jews generally give a tenth of their income to various charitable causes, the tzedaka, but there are actually a lot of disputes about how exactly to calculate the tenth. Just a simple example is that with regards to grain and other types of produce, we do not subtract the losses and we just separate the Maaserot, the tenths, from the actual crop. So for example, if I put one seed of barley into the earth and there grows let's say 20 seeds of barley from this, I would have to give a Maaser from the 20, not from 19. I do not subtract what I wasted, the seed that went into the earth, of course. On the other hand, with regards to the Maaser Kesafim, how we calculate the tenth with regards to giving a tenth of our income, obviously it's net income, not gross income. So anything that we lose, I mean, a lot of businesses in fact operate with very small margin of profit. I heard, for instance, that the supermarkets, they make 1 cent on every dollar. So if, for instance, they buy $100 worth of food, they'll make $1 and 99. They're gonna, meaning that they'll sell it for 101 basically once you subtract all the other losses, whatever they pay in salary and in rent and etc. etc. So my point is that if we would have to give the tenth of the gross, then we would have no income at all. In fact, any business would be not profitable. Different story is when a farmer is putting into the earth some seeds, they usually multiply many, many times. So the Torah doesn't tell us to subtract whatever his spending was. So out of 20 seeds that he was able to produce, 1/10 of that becomes Maaser, and he's still making a profit. But if in business where the gain is not 20 times the amount you spend, but a lot of times it's only a small percentage compared to what you spend, so it wouldn't be possible anyway to give a tenth of the gross. So similarly, most people subtract the taxes and all kinds of other things, and only then give the tenth. There are even opinions that all the normal spending, the minimal normal spending you need for the family, can also be subtracted. So a person whose salary is 100,000, but he needs 90,000 just to pay for the most basic needs, food, rent, clothing for him and his children, that might be, according to some opinions, subtracted, and then only from the remaining 10,000 he'll be paying the Maaser, the tenth. Also, there are possibilities that some of the spendings he has within his own family might be considered Maaser. According to some opinions, even the money he spends on his own children, certainly the money he spends on elderly parents who might be poor. If he has poor parents and he has no other money to spend on them, he's allowed to spend Maaser money. So that's why a lot of people, they don't actually give away a tenth of their income. Not everybody is able to give a tenth of their income. A lot of times people give away relatively small amounts of tzedaka. They barely make the ends meet themselves, but they're still fulfilling the obligation of Maaser through the fact that, for instance, if the children who are more than 6 years old already, according to some opinions, once you support them, you might be able to subtract that from Maaser if there's no other choice. And similarly, certain other cases when there's a non-obligatory mitzvot that a person does, he cannot usually spend Maaser money on things that he is obligated to do, but there are certain other things where he has a choice and he could spend Maaser money on it. I mean, an example might be that, let's say, when we give money to poor on Purim, you have to give to poor people at least the minimum amount of money. So what's that minimum amount of money? There's a dispute about it. Some say even a pruta is enough, a very small coin. In those times, in the times of Chazal, you could buy something on that pruta. Today, you can buy anything on the amount of silver that's equivalent to a pruta. That was the smallest coin they had in the times of Chazal. Pruta was a copper, I think, coin that you could buy maybe a fruit on. And today, in terms of silver equivalent, that would be maybe a couple of cents or something. So obviously, you can buy anything today on 2 cents. So one might logically conclude that it has to be at least, even if it's a pruta, has to be an equivalent of a pruta nowadays, so that would be maybe 25 cents. But most people try to give much more during Purim. And some people say you should have to give to poor people at least enough so that they could make a meal, a Purim meal. But at any rate, if you want to give more, which is what most people do, that you could take off from Maaser. Again, since you're not obligated to give more than that, therefore, the rest of the money that you give out on Purim, you might give $100 worth to all kinds of poor people, or even more. So the rest of it you could subtract from your Maaser money, from the tenth that you separated from your income. And there are a lot of other details in terms of all these laws. Of course, the laws of Maaser Kesafim are quite complex, but as I said, there are no clear sources for this concept as much as there are sources for the Maaser, the tenth that is taken from the crop or from the animals. With regards to Maaser Kesafim, the monetary, the tenth, the laws are much more obscure, and even though they're also discussed in the books of Halacha, there are a lot more disputes about what you're allowed to subtract, how do you calculate all this. Obviously, in the case of Maaser of grain and other crops, you cannot subtract losses against gains. So if on one field you had a loss and on another field you had a gain, you still have to take a tenth of whatever you produced on the field that did bring produce. Even though on another field maybe you lost everything and nothing grew. But it's not like that with regards to Maaser Kesafim. Again, another leniency of Maaser Kesafim is that, for instance, a person who has all kinds of businesses, and some businesses he suffered a loss, and other businesses he had a gain. So you may be able to calculate his total net gain throughout that year and take a Maaser from everything, even though really the gain would have been bigger if you just consider that one business that brought you gain. But since in another business you lost money, so you calculate the total, your total net worth compared to last year, and that's the difference from which you have to take off Maaser. There are a lot of other leniencies with regards to Maaser Kesafim. Some say that it's not really a biblical or even rabbinical obligation, but it's just a good minhag, a good custom. Others say it's a rabbinical obligation. And at least there are some opinions that say that it's sort of biblical, in at least a sense that it's hinted in the Torah, not openly stated, as I said. The only thing the Torah openly states is the Maaser of the produce, the crops, and the Maaser of animals, but at least it may be hinted in our Parsha. And if you like this video, please press like.